Hello and welcome to the Art of Pointy Things, a channel where I discuss a variety of different crafts including knitting, sewing and embroidery. I'm Dusty and today I'm going to do the second episode of my monthly knitting and crafting podcast detailing what I've been making in the past month since I last saw you. I have an Instagram and I've been posting most of my photos on Ravelry also under the name The Art of Pointy Things, so if you want to see better pictures of finished objects you can head over there. I am actually wearing a knitted object this week. Good luck figuring out what it is. The Flax Pullover by Tin Can Knits in a black worsted weight cotton. So you can see down the back there is the garter stitch detailing that they've got. It's a nice pattern, very good for beginners. It's one of the few garments I've actually knit. I'm going to talk about it more later, but I'm not massively into garment knitting at the moment, though that hopefully will change. The cotton yarn's quite good because it makes it quite good for summer, autumn wear. Sort of warm where it needs to be, but also not too warm, not too woolly. So, on to projects. The first thing that I have, on to finished items. The first thing I finished, I do not have with me, and hopefully you will see a video of me fiddling with it, is the pineapple golf club covers that I talked about in the last episode. So just as a quick cover, the pattern was the spiral rib golf club covers by Sarah Pearsley, and I basically just made them bright yellow and added some long green leaves on the top to make them look like pineapples. The yarn's just some unknown polyester stuff that I have in my stash, and I gave them to my parents at the beginning of last month and they really liked them, and they've already sent me pictures of them out on the golf course. So as I've sort of already mentioned, a lot of the details about what needles and everything and decisions I made are in the last episode, so feel free to go back and watch the episode if you're interested in that. The next thing I finished is a set of log cabin mitts. These are a very basic pattern. It's based on the log cabin mitts pattern by Karen Templer, except that with some modifications. So whilst she used a spiral pattern, this is actually based on the courthouse steps style of, there you go, courthouse step style of log cabin. The yarn is some very old stuff from my stash. Pretty certain it's Serta Country DK, which is 30% wool and then 70% various synthetic fibres. I have filmed a video of the making of these in which I go into sort of the process I follow a little bit more in depth. Hopefully I actually finish getting it edited and out. Yes. But they're quite good. I like them. I think they're quite nice colours. I have sort of soft spot for these sort of darker teals. I think the grey works quite well with it. Right. Those are my only two finished knitting objects, which are both quite small, but I've not had a lot of time this month. The next thing that I have finished is this. So this is the nuthatch patch that I was embroidering last week. I've finished the back. I've sort of given up on caring of the colours. What I have also done is I trimmed the edges and then I took my sewing machine with the serger foot and went round a couple of times on the edge to stop it from fraying. It's not perfect looking, you can probably see, but to be honest it's something I've not done a lot before and it's something I want to practice, and it's a lot faster than going around in hand trying to whip in all of the edging, and so that's ready to be turned into a patch. I think I said last month I was going to put it on a fleece. That sort of plan has changed. I'm now thinking I might make a few, either more nuthatches or, you know, a couple of blue tits, robins, goldfinches, sort of more commonly seen British birds, and making a small knitting project bag and stitching the patches on. But yeah, nope, that's finished. I haven't actually started any other embroidery. But it's a little nuthatch. Little Eurasian nuthatch, I suppose. Ready to go and climb all the little trees. So nothing really big finished, just lots of small things really. Right, so the next thing, on to works in progress. So the first thing I'm going to bring up is the set of socks. I have made some progress, but not a lot, considering that it has been a month. You think there would have been more progress, but there has not been. I'm part of the way through the heel flap, and then do the heel turn. Long hair all over this. Someone's been molting, and it's probably me. Yeah, so it's the same West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in the mallard colourway for the main body of the sock, and then the juniper for the cuff, heel and toe. Knit on 2.5mm DPNs, metal DPNs. I think, oh, it's the sock pattern is the Favourite Socks by Kristen from Vullenvine, and it's just the larger size. Ooh. I love the self-striping, honestly. I know I said it last time, but still basically said self-striping is good. Right, next work in progress is something new that you've not seen before. Shock horror. Not that the mitts were new, weren't they? I'm actually thinking about it. More hair. How do I get hair everywhere? So, last time, to be honest, it's not completely new, I showed you the yarn. I have had to recake it again. This one seems to do a lot better, so I think I'm getting the hang of it. I need to go a lot slower than I think I do. I think I was going too fast. But this is a 85% superwash merino and 15% multicolour net from Chester wool, undyed. So I have to keep it undyed for this, though maybe I'll dye it up afterwards. We'll see how it looks. But honestly, I really like how it looks undyed. It's just a simple triangular shawl. Let's see if I can figure out how to hold this. So, quite a simple triangular shawl with a ridge up the middle. Increases and then increases along the edge with a small garter stitch border. So it's based on the pattern The Age of Brass and Steam. I can't remember who it's by. I'll hopefully have a note below who it's by. Basically I'm just following that pattern but not doing the eyelets, the lace eyelets that are meant to go in. I do think they look really cool and I think it would make a beautiful shawl. For some reason I didn't want to do that on this. I think originally I was planning on doing some lace detailing because I thought it would be quite plain, but the multicolour net sort of a lot more frequent than I thought they would be when I was looking at just the yarn. It's actually made quite a very speckled yarn and I absolutely love it. I keep referring to it mentally as the birthday cake shawl because it looks like a sprinkles birthday cake. I could cook cake with sprinkles in it. Yeah, can you see it? Or is it just me? It might just be me. But that's what I'm thinking. And basically this is just going to be a triangular lace shawl. When I bind off the edge, what I may do is add a lace border knit. So rather than knitting the lace border this way, when you bind off you then pick up the stitches and you go along like that. I was thinking of doing a lace border. Potentially in one of the hand-dyed yarns I've got sat around. I think that'd be a really very simple lace and I think that'd be really good. So this one I just have actually sat here mainly for aesthetic reasons, but it's actually the one I'm thinking of using. This is a My Yarn Place UK dyed yarn. I might make a note of what its name is if I can find the label for it. But it's this sort of speckly in lots of different colours and I was thinking that it might go quite nicely with this as a sort of border. So maybe. We'll see. You can definitely tell I'm progressing because last time this was a skein and now it's in a cake and it's definitely looking a lot better than whatever I did to this one last month. So progress is being made. I'm actually getting through this quite quickly. It's only really been on my needles for a couple of weeks. But it's now my archery knit. So whenever I'm down the range and I'm waiting for people to finish shooting or finish collecting, it's just the one I do, because it's basically just stockinette back and forth with a few increases every now and then, which makes it very easy knit to put down and pick up. So it used to be I used to use socks for that, but with the DPNs, you sort of have to do a bit of faffing to get, or at least I find I have to do a bit of faffing. I can't just put down and pick up. DPNs I find are better for sort of doing long haul knits. Whereas this I can just literally pick down and put back up relatively simply. So I've been knitting it out at archery. Might be why. If you see any grass, that's why. I do try and not put it in the grass, but sometimes the wind has a different opinion of me to me, believes it belongs in the grass. Okay. That's that one. But yeah, it's coming along quite nicely. I don't know how big I'm going to make it. I have a few skeins of this. It was on sale when I bought it, so I've got quite a few. So I don't know whether I'm going to do 1, 1.5 or 2 skeins before I bind off and do the lace edging. But I do want quite a big sort of wrap around style shawl. Right. Next is basically the other reason I've got nothing done. It starts with paperwork. Basically, I mentioned earlier, and I mentioned last week, that I don't knit a lot of garments. And the main... There are a few reasons for that. One of them is, to be honest, that when I go through all the patterns on Ravelry and in the books and everything, then they don't match the style of clothing I particularly like, and I like wearing quite fitted clothing. And a lot of jumpers and cardigans that you see in shirts have a very loose fit to them, with a bit of sort of the logic of knitting stretches, so that if you make it a bit small you can sometimes get that negative ease fittedness. But I've never really liked that, and so it's put me off of knitting garments. And basically watching a few people who make modifications to patterns, specifically Anushka from the Crimson Stitchery and her recent video series about making alterations to patterns to make them more your style, make them fit you better. I decided to do that basically and create a knitting pattern from scratch based on specifically my body measurements. So that's what all of this paper is. I don't know how much you can really tell what's going on, but it's sort of my measurements, the design, notes I want to take. That's all the gauging, knitting the gauge swatch. And then the basic pattern. It's very simple. This is just, first thing I want to try was making a tank top. So it's literally a shaped tube and then some triangles at the top. So a shaped tube with shaping at the waist, along the princess seam down the front of the bust and in the centre back seam. And then just at the bust line, basically triangles on top to cover the top of the bust. Should hopefully be quite simple. I've basically just taken my measurements, taken my gauge swatch and done maths, lots of maths. I love maths, me. Any excuse to do maths to figure out my pattern, which is basically this bit of paper. Looks simplistically, there's not a lot of writing on there, and it somewhat scares me because I feel there should be more writing. That took me a long time to do because I overthink everything. Nothing is simple. Everything has to be overthought to extensiveness. So the yarn I am using came, I want to admit this, it came from Aldi's. So a few years back now, I had a hemp yarn, which is 55% hemp and 45% cotton, knit and pearl. I genuinely meant to look it up and I didn't. I don't know if you can actually get this outside of Aldi's, if it's like available generically and it's just one of the things they happen to have it in, or if it produced in China for Aldi stores. But it is probably meant to be more for home goods than it is for garment making. This is my swatch. It's got impressed by it. It's definitely got a stiff feeling to it. It's not scratchy or anything, it's just stiff. It's also very, yeah, it's just stiff. So I honestly don't know how this will turn out, but it also I don't think was very expensive. So if it all goes horribly, I'll just rip it all out and turn it into a bunch of face cloths and dishcloths, which always get used in this household. So I have two colours. I don't know if the colour names are written on here, but it's this sort of brown, beigey colour and this yellow. And the plan is, you can see I've started, I've not gotten very far. There you go, so it's the start of one, it's knit top down, start one of the triangles. I've done what I hope is a provisional cast on. We shall see how well this works. It's the first time I've ever done one. So that's one triangle to cover the bust area. Make another one and then join them in the round and more shaping. And because I keep not finding my stitch markers, I am using a safety pin, which to be honest works. So these are circular 3.25mm needles. That's what I'm using for this. It is a bit smaller than this recommended, but then as I said, I don't think this was meant for garment knitting. I think this was very much meant for sort of house goods knitting, so either things like dishcloths or, you know, crocheted baskets, which I think you can sort of, there's a free pattern on the label apparently for a crochet basket. Is that focusing? There you go. So that's taken up a lot of my time. The maths involved with that is basically taking up a lot of my time. I've had to knit, I also had to knit a few gauge swatches and then block them to figure out what needle size I wanted to use, because it became very apparent very quickly that the needle size I wanted to use was not appropriate, and I had to figure out what I want to do with that. So that's taken up quite a bit of my time this month. She says, as an excuse for why there isn't a lot done. Not that I'm just quite a slow knitter. So on to next is yarn acquisitions. I have actually bought yarn this month. I probably shouldn't be buying yarn. I have enough yarn that I probably shouldn't be buying more, but you know, I just can't help myself sometimes. So this month I hit a fitness goal. I was able to run so far in so many minutes. Very happy with myself. So as my reward for getting that, I bought yarn. So you know, there is a justified reason for this. So this is a 500g cone of Holst Super Soft 100% wool in the Vintage Heather colourway. I honestly have little idea how well this is going to show up on camera. This looks very black on camera. It's not black. It's a sort of dark, mottled is probably the wrong word. It's not a solid blue, but it's very dark denim. I don't know how to describe it. So it's but my plan is to make a jumper or a vest out of this. Possibly, hopefully, using, if the tank top goes well, using the same math style logic I did for that, for this. But it's also quite affordable. You know, this cone was £22? Something around there. So it's quite affordable for like 500 grams of yarn, especially like 500 grams of 100% wool. So I think it comes with the spinning oil still in, so you do have to wash it. You have to be aware of that and wash it before you wear it. There's some good videos online. You can sort of look up some videos on working specifically with Holst. So this is the Super Soft. As I said, 100% wool. I was tempted by some of the other stuff, but I couldn't buy everything as much as I wanted to. Though I didn't just get that, I also got these. A pink and an orange, which are quite nice. I like them. And I think the idea is that basically, so this is geranium and this is clementine. And basically my idea was I wanted to create a fade set of socks in these colours. I know they're 100% wool and you should have nylon in your socks, but in all honesty, I don't wear them a lot and I'm also not a massive fan. I do have yarn with nylon, and you've probably seen the amount of stuff I've got that has nylon and polyester and stuff in it. But I do want to reduce how much I use, so I actually want to see how well these held up as socks. I did find something online that said they sort of held up okay. But I have some dahlias in my garden that are sort of pink fading to orange, and I never would have thought that they were pretty, but they are absolutely gorgeous, and so I want to see if I could sort of recreate that. And so I thought whilst I was putting this order in, I'd pick up a couple of 50-gram balls in these colours and see if I can try and make a pretty pair of socks that fade. But yeah, so that was my well done for being able to run, basically. Reward for myself. They're not very similar, these colours, but hey, they're pretty. What's next? Future projects! Future things I wish to make. So I probably should stop looking to the future until I finish some of the things I'm currently making, but hey, no, I'm just gonna keep looking to the future. To be honest, a lot of the things I mentioned last week that I haven't started are still on my radar, so making a blanket out of little squares, the coziest blanket, I think it was, little mitered squares. That's still on my radar. Still want to do that. But to be honest, other thing I want to do, if you have seen my video on dyeing yarn, hand dyeing yarn using rhubarb leaves and nettles, you might recognise this as the resulting yarn that came out. And if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link up in the iCard, I think over that corner. And you can watch the video where I naturally dye this yarn. But I did mention in the end, I have got a sock pattern that I found with little cabled owls on it that I think would be absolutely gorgeous in this. I just like owls. You might discover this over the next few episodes. I like owls, and so any excuse to cable owls onto things I will happily take. So that's the plan for this yarn. I will probably... I don't know whether I want to finish the other set of socks before I start this, because this is going to be slightly more complicated. Those are meant to be mindless socks, the other socks I'm knitting, whereas this will be sort of more complicated. So I do want to leave it a bit, finish some other projects before I start this one. And then I've been seeing brioche around a lot recently, and there's a part of me that wants to do some brioche. And I found an interesting cowl pattern called, I think it's the Thistle Cowl, that has some brioche in it. And I've never done brioche before. And it looks so interesting. So I have some... I didn't get them out. Wait a moment. I think they're over here. I don't have the labels for these, but I believe these are the Karen Super Soft 100% nylon. As I said, I have a lot of nylon sat around, I just don't want to buy any more. And I was thinking, especially for a new style of knitting, it might be quite fun to do a sort of brioche, maybe with these two. I've got a few other colours. I've got grey. Where's my grey? Honestly, can't quite remember why I have all of these, but hey. I think something brioche cowl. Winter is coming, she says, at the end of August, early September. But you know, winter's coming and I must prepare. I must make myself a cowl for the winter. Because I don't have enough of those, apparently, sat around the house. It's like I don't have enough pairs of fingerless mitts, you know. Never have enough pairs of fingerless mitts. Never. But anyway, that's sort of it for future plans. And that's it for the crafting content. I did this week. My plans for the next few weeks is to start going blackberry picking. The blackberries are ripening, and I want to save up some blackberries and make some blackberry and apple jam. Also maybe some blackberry and apple crumble. I have a lot of frozen Bramley apples, so that will be fun. But in terms of jam, I also this month, I made a bunch of nectarine jam. Nectarines, if you aren't aware, don't have a lot of pectin in them, so you need to add pectin, and apparently I didn't add enough pectin because the jam didn't set. So it's more sort of a nectarine syrup. It goes very well in porridge and on pancakes, but it's not really a jam, really. But that was sort of my adventures with cooking things in the kitchen this month. I had quite a bit of fun. I do enjoy jam making. I may mention the end of videos next few times. But thank you for watching. If you enjoy yourself, please like, comment and subscribe. If you have any questions or suggestions about this, please leave them in the comments. I'll be very happy to hear. Also, please, give me ideas for future projects, because, never have enough ideas. Just need to act on them half the time. But thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely day.